Okay. We're at about 14. I think there's a few more people, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here. I know that for some of us, it's a little later in the day. So good late afternoon and early evening for others. Before we get started, we're going to do a quick host introduction. I don't see Darcy just yet. She must be running a little behind. But I'll go ahead and introduce myself and then hand it over to Seth. My name is Lakeisha Mitchell-Meller. For those of you who I have not met already, I specialize in maximizing investment properties through ADUs. I gained that experience after transforming 2 single-family homes to a triplex and fourplex with my husband and partner. And that inspired me because I realized the potential in ADUs for existing homeowners to maximize their investment and for first-time homeowners to make home ownership possible and affordable, especially in this market. I'm really excited to be here, and design is one of the things I'm most passionate about. I have lived off and on for a few years in a van, a very small van, and so design is like one thing that really makes or breaks your experience, the experience of your guests, and your potential to make income. So if something is not designed properly, no matter what size it is, it's not going to work well. And so I'm happy to be hosting this session. And now, Steph, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lakeisha. First of all, I'm so proud of you for taking lead on this call today. First of all, we actually met through social media, and Lakeisha reached out to me, scheduled a Calendly call. We had an amazing conversation, and that's what inspired this ADU Mastermind for Women. And Darcy just joined, so she'll be able to introduce herself. So I thought about Darcy and Lakeisha, and all 3 of us came together to create space. I am an ADU expert, also an investor, also a podcast host and an event host, and I'm a mom. And I love to empower other women and give them confidence in the space. I think we all bring something to the table. And as Lakeisha said, the design is a very crucial step when building ADUs. And that's something that I think from a women's perspective, we bring so much value to the table. And I think every single conversation that we're having these next couple of months is really to empower each other. I was on a call with Florentine yesterday, and this is more than just collaborating, right? We were talking about this, Florentine. It's not just this whole let's collaborate and women empowerment. It's really like developing a true, genuine relationship with each other on how we can help our businesses grow genuinely, because we we have commonality, we have things in common that we enjoy besides ADUs, right? Like ADUs is the cherry on top, but we value each other because of who we are. And so yeah, that's kind of my purpose here for today. And Lakeisha will be taking lead. Darcy just joined the call, and she's also one of the co-hosts for these ADU masterminds. So I'll hand it off to her. Where are you? And then we're going to get started.
All right, Lakeisha, is it me? Is it my turn?
Yes, I've already introduced myself. Thanks for checking, Darcy. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was having like difficulties like logging in for some reason, but hi everyone. I'm excited for this one just because I think design has been like one of the most like things that you think after the fact when you're actually building. You're like, oh, we should have done this or we should have done that. So I'm actually very excited for this class. And yeah, Lakeisha, you do your thing, girl.
Darcy is being very humble. She is a small-scale developer. She works with one in Las Vegas. She works with Picasa Homes, beautiful ADUs, basically, in Las Vegas space. And kind of they're like what Las Vegas has, because she's in the forefront of all these projects, and they don't really have an established ADU kind of world there yet. Just because they have so much land, you don't really see the ADUs, but there's definitely a need everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And the biggest thing I think for this group is going to be how do you lead something where you don't know where to start from, right? So I think that collaboration, like with me and meeting Lakeisha and staff, like it's really guided me to know how to where am I aiming and how do I start and where do I start? So even though I had the developer on my side and the support on my developer side, I was completely, I mean, I didn't know anything about ADUs. So I think that it's exciting to see the development going on. And we've been extremely busy, even though that we do not have the full zoning for ADU here, like ADUs here. We've been extremely busy and the response has been amazing. And so hopefully I'll be able to help anyone that's looking, you know, for how to gear into more of the development side of things.
Okay, thank you, Darcy.
Thank you.
And now I'd like our guest speaker, Patricia. We met through an interview that I saw through another investor. And then I was lucky enough to share a panel with her on ADUs. And she is just a wealth of knowledge. She knows so much about ADUs and is so passionate about ADUs. It's definitely an ally you want to have on your side. So Patricia, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. It's really awesome to be in this space, and I really appreciate the three of you guys for, really just putting this together. I I cannot actually accentuate this even further. Homeowners need to be educated. ADUs, especially in California, specifically. I know we have Las Vegas here, but it's a good expansion, to be honest. But in California, it really plays a big role to really just battle the shortage of housing here. So, and I'm very passionate to be, to be an asset in that aspect, and just be able to share what I know and what I've experienced, based on the firm that I'm running. So, if those obviously it's my first time here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Patricia. I'm actually a civil engineer by trade. So an engineer and architect, they're very different. And an architect is basically, they focus on aesthetics, they focus on facade, they really focus on the design aspect of a structure, whereas a civil engineer really focuses on the structure itself and if it really stands. So basically, we all like to call it, when I was in college, we make architects' dreams come true. Because they can do whatever they want, but you still need to kind of put it into structure. I'm a civil engineer by trade, and I worked in the in the construction industry for about 3 years. I did not really find my passion there. I was more towards. I mean, I shadowed for a contractor, a residential contractor, and I just found my passion in designing residential homes. So once I was comfortable in that space, I decided to open my own design firm. I started with really just myself. I designed a couple of ADUs, and then I moved on to remodels and then single family homes. And then I found my niche in the space, and the ADU community has boomed for the past 3 years. So really just that, it really opened an avenue for me to be an asset to not just homeowners, but to contractors out there, and to even developers and real estate investors like such as you guys. So I opened my first firm, which is MP Builds. I have a team of 3 designers now, which is pretty awesome. We really focus cities in the Bay Area, in Sacramento, and the Central Valley. We did have a couple of SoCal projects in this firm, but I realized it wasn't feasible to really just go back and forth because it's like because I have to visit the site, like I have to take a look at it. But then I have to go down there. It was just really hard, and my designers were here, so I decided, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna open a new firm in SoCal. So I did. I started a new firm. It's called Leisure Studios, and then I have a whole team down there who will really do the site visits because we don't want, we really would like to meet the homeowners and really do the actual site visit itself and do the actual measurements in that property. So yeah, Leisure Studios is pretty new, but the concept is exactly the same. Oh, actually, it's a little bit more because I'm trying to open up this new space. And I haven't told Akeisha about this, but I'm trying to open up a new space of interior design. I'm talking to an interior designer principal where I can team up with because there are people out there who do ADUs for fun, and like they want a really really nice one, and not just for rental. So I'm trying to delve into that space as well. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you for like sharing about both the firms and your journey. Um, for a lot of us, that whole sphere that you're in, where you're starting a firm and then you start a second one, it's like way out there. So I appreciate you sharing that, and I'm looking forward to getting more into your journey. But let's first go ahead and go over some housekeeping stuff. I'm going to share my screen. One second. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, so I got a nod yes, everyone can see my screen. That's great. So we've already done our introductions, just a few things about housekeeping. So we're all here on time. Thank you so much. And try not to miss more than one, 2 sessions, and then just come here and have fun. We really want to be supportive for each other. And while we're providing information, we also just want this to be kind of a safe space for us to be compassionate with each other and empathetic and vulnerable, and just kind of be ourselves in this kind of on this journey where none of us really see the path, but we know we're going in some direction, right? We don't exactly know, but we do know that we're going in the same direction together. So when we attend, we just want to support each other. Thank everyone for being here today. I see a lot of new faces and a few that aren't on this list. I'm sorry that they probably got registered later or something, but I'm really happy that you're here. And I hope that you find this a resource and feel comfortable asking questions as today goes along. Put your question in the chat, and then Steph or Darcy will kind of give us a heads up that we have a question that we should address. So I feel like everyone here knows what an ADU is, but just in case, ADUs are self-contained living spaces with their own entrance, kitchen, bathroom, and sleeping facility. I found some information. It's kind of old, but it's some data from the California Housing Department. And it shows like the statistics illustrate the growth of ADUs. So I think the number is like at 83,000 now of ADUs being permitted. It represents 20% of the market for new builds in California for the permits that are being pulled. And so I read another quote that was something like, a part of, getting rich in real estate is, being a genius, like a very smart part. The rest of it, 90% is about getting in front of the curve. And so all of us in this space, we're all getting in front of this curve, and preparing ourselves to really succeed with using ADUs as a part of our portfolios. Oh, there goes Patricia. A little bit about Patricia. She already introduced herself. Sorry, I missed that slide. Okay, and then the types of ADUs. So ADUs are going to fall into a couple of different types. In California, we're going to see a lot of, especially in larger cities, we're going to see a lot of those garage conversions, basements, existing structure conversions. Next, we're going to see the detached ADUs. And then your garage could be attached or detached, and then we have the basement and attic or a junior ADU. I think Patricia can agree, we don't see a ton of junior ADUs here just because the value just isn't always there to have a junior ADU. And sometimes with junior ADUs, they have their own entrance, but they usually share a bathroom or a kitchen. And I could see them being utilized more in really congested places, but ultimately you want to try to limit those. There is there has been in the past some restrictions on how you utilize a junior ADU. So it's not always the best path to go, since there are those ordinances that kind of restrict how you rent it out or whether or not it, it has to be owner occupied. So I'd like to now get started with Patricia. And my first question is, Patricia, can you just go through kind of like what your process is when you first get started working with a client or on a project?
Yeah, I can go through that. So usually some clients, there are different stages where the clients are at, right? Some are just really searching and looking for answers on what they can do to their backyard. For example, you have such a huge backyard and don't know what to do with it, or there is a need of a space, that you can convert into something, which is an ADU. So these type of clients, I would have to walk them through and have to explain to them like, hey, these are the type of ADUs that you can build. So it always just starts with like a 30-minute free consultation that I give out for free, by the way. So I have a Calendly where, I can send out that link to the client. I have it in my website as well. Or you can go through my project coordinator. We will schedule that. So that's kind of how it starts, where I have a 30-minute free consultation with them. And what happens with that consultation is that I would always do it through Zoom. It's just really hard to do it on a phone call because I can't really visualize the aerial perspective of their property. So I would usually ask like, hey, what's the location of your property, and let's see it from like a Google Earth perspective. Google Earth also has like these really rough measurements that you can kind of know the setbacks. It's not 100%, but at least you can get the idea of what can fit inside a backyard. It's funny because I'm actually working with, I have a tech friend where he can actually sort of input like what you can fit inside your backyard with the existing setbacks. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I would utilize Google Earth in that way. And by the end of that meeting, the client would have an idea of what's the feasibility and what type of ADU he or she can build in that particular property. So that's where the concept development is. I would also ask, this is very, very important. I would also ask the number one purpose of why that client needs an ADU. So in my experience, there's only really two purposes. It's either for rental or it's either for your family, right? Or for your own use, basically. And that kind of dictates the budget. It dictates the design of the ADU. Usually for rentals, you would want something cookie cutter, something cheap that you can buy off Home Depot type of thing, right? But if it's usually for like mom or dad or like, your own use and stuff like that, you would want to spend a little bit more time conceptualizing the design, the layout. So the purpose of the ADU really dictates how you want to move forward to it. So these two things, the feasibility of the ADU, that's how I would start with the consultation, and really just the purpose of it.
Thank you, Patricia.
So, yeah,
you brought up a really good point. Yeah, you brought up a good point. Darcy had mentioned that sometimes, she was working with certain people and they'd go out to the site and they come back and they have all this information, but they would not have this one question, which is, what is the purpose of the ADU? Why do they want to build it? It's such an important question and such, important information to have, because it's going to help dictate, like you said, your budget, what, finishes you want to use, or like even site in terms of privacy. Like I'm a firm believer in always over kind of planning. So even if I think I'm going to use it for family, I want to put it in such a way that if I don't use it for family, I also don't have to, that there's privacy built into the design. One of the things that was interesting in our build is in utilities and the location of utilities. We had learned from previous builds that we needed to pay attention to where our utility tie-ins were and get as many of those at the site where we were going to be building as possible. Like when we were comparing what properties to buy, we actually looked at, okay, where's my water tie-in? Where's my utility, my power coming from? where is my sewer tie-in? Now, you very seldom will be able to get all three, but if you're conscious and you know going into your design, like going into the build, then you'll think about that as an investor or homeowner. And for us, we then went ahead and incorporated that into our stopping process while we were looking at buying the next home to do an ADU project. And also in our design, we wanted to make sure that we streamline how we put the ADU duplexes up together. And Darcy had brought this up, like this can save you in their Picasa homes. They are saving themselves time and money because of the way that they design their buildings. They're streamlining where the plumbing goes so that they're not out there. You kind of want to, Darcy, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think so. When we first started we came from like more of the construction side, and we did a lot of custom build outs and spec homes. But with the Picasa, with our pre-designed models, we were able to keep the cost affordable. And our goal was to create something that was going to fit the majority landscape of whatever city or county we were building in. And also, how can we create a process where these guys we can do it with their eyes closed, right? It wasn't brain surgery. We were trying to manufacture as much in our like walls and plumbing work in warehouse so that we would have less construction on site. So I think that I know California is a little bit different because, you definitely have to think a little bit outside of the box. But when we started designing our pre-designed models, we really thought about where can we tie in the majority of the utilities on one side of the design, one side of the floor plan, and which for us, it was like our wet wall, right? So like right now, what the picture that you're looking at right now on this slide, this would be pretty much like your wet wall on our casita. Like all of the plumbing would be running through one main wall, all of the electrical would be running through one main wall, the majority of it. And the reason why we thought about this was because our goal was to keep the cost low, especially for the footprint that we're building. Like our goal is to build under 600, because in the state of Nevada, if it's less than 600 square feet, we don't need a soils report. We don't need a lot of the extra inspections that we would need, that would be like a larger build out. So when really thinking about the build and the design of the floor plans that we were working with, we're really trying to stay within how easy will it be for us to just connect to that one wet wall, versus once you start moving, the bathrooms to the opposite sides and the split units and like split bathrooms on each end. Now you're trenching a lot more. Now you need a lot more material, so the cost goes up. So I guess like the intention of it goes back to, yes, why are you building this ADU? And how can we build it within that budget? And I feel like when you're direct with someone as to design, we tell our clients all the time, this is our pre-designed model, and if it doesn't work for you, then it's talk custom. But custom will definitely a total different price point at that point, right? But you have, I guess, like to answer the question that Lakeisha brought up, was with us, it was very important for us to be able to keep the utilities tied into one main location versus trying to split walls and I guess like the connections of where the connections were going to be for gas and all of that type of stuff. So.
And talking about utilities, if you don't mind me jumping in, Florentine brought up a really good point when it comes to junior ADUs. I know this was a topic we were talking about earlier. I overheard. So her comment, which I thought was super valuable, you guys can see it in the chat. Junior ADUs require a deed restriction, which must be recorded on title, and the property must be owner occupied. So that still applies to junior ADUs. So this is not really like an investor hack, right? The junior ADU. But some of the good things on the flip side is you don't have to separate utilities. So that is the most cost-effective route for a homeowner who is going to or intends to occupy the property. So I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was a really good hack and something we should know, especially if we're doing business in California. We do have two questions as well. Stacy Robinson is asking, what's the best way to introduce the buyer to Patricia? Do they what is the question? Do they after or before the design is made, and is there a referral fee? So that's like three
I think
questions
it
in
says,
one.
do they pay?
Right. Is there a referral fee?
Uh,
How do they get in touch, and when does that happen?
I'll answer
Okay.
all
Okay,
three
cool.
questions.
Awesome.
Best
And then
way,
there's,
yeah, okay, go ahead.
oh no, did you want to answer it now? That's fine.
Yeah, I can answer it. Yeah.
Okay.
The best way to reach out to me really is through Instagram. I'm on there every day. My website, which I think I'm gonna share it towards the end of the chat. You can reach out to me through email, and I'll just put in my number in there as well. Do they pay after or before the design is made? So the consultation, like I said, is free, 30 minutes. You'll have 30 minutes with me, and I'll tell you what you can do in your ADU and what you can build. The design will only start. I have a retainer, which I have to draft up an entire proposal with all the deliverables inside. There's a retainer fee that I usually collect before any design is made. And yeah, there's that. Third question, is there a referral fee? I do have a referral fee actually. So for every client, I have a $500 referral fee should they end up signing with me. So yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Patricia. And then one more, and I'll hand it back to you, Keisha. And this question is for you. And it says, Keisha, is there a standard you look for when you're looking at how far the utilities may be from the main house or the edge of the lot? I'm assuming like setbacks.
There's not a standard, but yeah, there's not a standard, but the closer the better. So in this build, we had the water and our power lines were close to the ADU, but our sewer was 140 feet from, it was in the front of the property, so it had to be trenched. So that was not fun, and we don't have a crew really. I mean, we got some help, but as you know, homeowner builders, my husband's in construction. Basically, we hired a TaskRabbit person to come and help us dig it out. And it wasn't me, I wasn't digging, but I just took pictures of them digging. So yeah, so I don't have a standard. I don't know, Patricia, do you have a standard? Oh, like, I mean, we're looking, so that's why. I mean, there's no, if you are going to build an ADU, you just have to let your the client know, like, this is where the cost is going to be for tying into utilities, right?
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned that. I was actually just off from Alameda County, what do you call that? Utility department. But anyway, every lot is different, right? Your lot can be narrow, your lot can be long, it can be short, it can be small. It really depends. Sometimes your utilities can be overhead when it comes to the electrical. The sewer can be all the way to front, all the way at the front, like what Lakeisha said. Sometimes there is a clean out that's super close to the home, which you can actually just tie in, and you're lucky if you have that. But yeah, it's dependent on the site itself. And I can go on and on about utilities because there's also like the slope. If you do slab on grade, if you do slab on grade and your slope is like lower, you need to have a pump and all that. So utilities really play a part on the placement of your ADU. Ideally, if your sewer capacity is big enough, even with a new detached ADU in your back, you can actually just tie into your home with the existing clean out. If it's not big enough, sadly, you have to kind of, dig through the main one or have a new pump and stuff like that. So there is no standard. It really is dependent on the site itself. So that really dictates the construction as well, and also just how much you're going to pay in utilities for a new connection and all that.
And that's actually that's like one of the biggest expenses that you can't really like standardize because
control. Yeah, you can control it.
Yeah, I mean, we can do all of the pre-designed model that we would want to do, but that is the only line item that we're like, we got to do a site visibility on your property because we don't know. We can get someone that has all of the utilities on one side. Or also another thing to consider is that if you don't have a property, then you're looking specifically to buy a property to build or develop on. These are things that you really want to look at first. we've learned this in a lot, like, you know, if for the like past years, even building spec homes with our developers, you know, just because it's a cheap land, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for your project. And so on some of these properties that you're looking, especially California, you know, you might have to break through a bunch of concrete and replace that concrete. And so there's like a lot of things that go are involved in this process specifically for the utilities. And yeah, so.
And so back
Florentine
to
actually,
the question that was asked. So we're just looking for, as when we're comparing properties, as many pluses, you know, like, so if I have my power and my water there, we might not be able to get the sewer. And in that case, our last property had 2 of the 3. So we call that a win. That was good. You know, so that's kind of like our standard. If we could get just 2 of the 3, then we're probably going to proceed if everything else works for that property. And I had a hand raised. Nancy, did you want to ask your question?
Well, going back to the junior ADUs, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Going back to the junior ADUs, I kind of use those as a hack, a house hack for my first-time home buyers. So taking even the master bedroom and converting that is the easiest way to do it into an ADU, a junior ADU, by adding a little kitchenette, an exterior entrance. Now they're able to, let's say they buy a 4-bedroom. They still have 3 bedrooms left to live out of. Now they have a junior and they're getting, you know, $1,500 to $2,000 for that ADU. That took their payment of, you know, $4,500 down to $2,500. So, and I am able to qualify them with that. So it's been very helpful in that respect. But I do think that lending has to catch up with it, of course, because, you know, we are battling trying to find suitable financing for these clients.
Yes, that's the elephant in the room. Lending is definitely
Yes.
financing the issue.
Yeah.
So taking away the primary and replacing it with a junior ADU. Yes. Okay. Yes, that's what they're saying, Key. So Patricia, I would like to get into, we're at about the halfway point, to get into a couple of the projects that you're working on. I know that we want to talk about how homeowners with existing spaces can take garage conversions or internal conversions and design them so that it's not only cost effective, that's one of the things we were just talking about, but also maximize the space. And you had some projects that you wanted to share. So I guess I need to stop sharing my screen. There you
talking
go.
about junior, since we're at the junior ADU topic, yeah. So I've actually have gotten a couple of junior ADUs in the past few weeks recently. There is this bill actually, which can't remember. I should have pulled it up. There's this bill that was signed by Newsom actually, that they're taking away the owner occupancy of junior ADUs. It's been signed. I don't know if it's finalized. And I don't know when it's going to take effect. Again, cities always take so long to catch up with these type of things. So there's always like when there's always like these new ordinances, you know, the cities will just take really long to catch up with this. But yeah, if you do want to follow that bill, I can send it to the chat and I can look for it later. But yes, they're trying to remove that owner occupancy to really sort of just, you know, encourage investors, because, you know, the investors don't really go that route because of the owner occupancy. But yeah, they are taking away that part. So okay, I guess converting an existing space, if you have, I would suggest this, if you have a home more than 1,500 square feet, and like what Nancy said earlier, if you have a 4-bed 2-bath or 4-bed 3-bath, just converting so a junior ADU has to be within an existing space. I think let's establish that. You can't actually attach something and build something new and call it a junior ADU. So by definition, it has to be an existing space of a home. So it could be like, it could be a great room, right? It could be a great room that you're not really using, a flex room that you're not really using, an extra master bedroom or primary bedroom that you're not using, that is very easy to add a new utility in there, and a kitchenette. You can use that. And then the easiest is really just converting your attached garage. It has to be attached, can't be detached. Attached garage into the junior ADU. Sorry, for some reason, the screen is actually hanging. It's not allowing me to share anything. This will stop others sharing screen. Do you want to continue?
Okay.
Let me see. For some reason, it's really not like clicking. Let me see.
So question on the junior, can you not add on to that room a little bit though?
No, you can't. So it has to be an existing
Okay.
space. That's the rule of junior ADUs. Can't extend it. Can't extend it to new. But yeah, within the existing space of it. I'm trying to share
Okay.
my screen, but it's not working. Let me say.
That's so weird because it just worked earlier.
Yeah.
I'll give you a few
Okay,
more
maybe I
minutes.
just need to. Yeah. Okay.
Florentine, are you talking
Can-
about, are you, I don't see the screen yet. Florentine, are you saying, just make sure, I want to make sure I understand your comment. You're saying that when you start to talk about the cost of the junior ADU, it actually makes sense to just go ahead and build an ADU. Is that what you're saying? Or did I misinterpret that comment?
Yeah, yeah, I'm over here chatting. I'm having a good old time in the chat box here. You know,
I see that.
my answer to almost everything is it depends, right? I mean, it depends on what is the client trying to create. How are they going to use it long term? And Keisha, as you mentioned, like we don't do a lot of JDs because, like you said earlier, like it's not going to make sense for most people. They're really not. There are cases where it does, and it's the perfect answer for someone because of the cost savings, and that's the thing that they need, and they're going to move a family member in there. But I don't know if there's a blanket, I don't know if there's a blanket answer. It depends. It depends on what they're trying to create, and is that the solution for their situation? So I was commenting that I love it when we get phone calls all the time. People want to know, what are your costs to build an ADU? But like just on average, just an average ADU, like what does that cost? And I just feel like an average ADU has nothing to do with you and your project for all the reasons that you ladies are talking about. I mean, utilities being a big one of them, right? Like it's just, an ADU on one property and then the same exact ADU, but on two different properties that have very, very different costs. So.
Thank you,
Okay.
Florentine. That's so true.
Perfect. Okay. So I've got a few projects right now. They're lined up. They're actually all very different. I've purposely pulled up very different projects. So since we're at the junior ADU topic, this is actually a junior ADU. I didn't show the entire dwelling, but this was the garage before. This is how the garage looked like. It had an existing washer and dryer utility room. And it was just really storage space that they weren't really using. The electric, you can see my cursor, right? You can see my cursor? Yeah. So
Yes.
the electrical panel was here. There was an outside water heater here. And then this house was on gas. So I know that any new build ADUs, you can't use gas, but for a junior ADU, you can actually tap on to using gas for a home. For any reason why you want to use gas on a junior ADU when it comes to your heat pump and stuff like that. But this was a junior ADU. We converted it into a 1-bed, 1-bath. I had suggested, can you just make it a studio? Because adding walls just makes it really congested and really small. I would love to think that a 1-bed, 1-bath has to be at least 500 square feet. Like I feel like I feel like it's I mean my designer side is coming out, but my cost of cost saving and my what makes sense when it comes to your appraisal, when it comes to your rent uh, side also is saying that 450 I think is a good one bed one bath. But if you want a comfortable size, 500 square feet would be good. But yeah, this one's actually 416 only, and it's one bed, one bath. This is in the city of Livermore. Yes, Keisha.
Can I just
think
interrupt
you had
you
a
really
question.
quickly? Can you tell us about the sheet of like the plans that a client would receive? Like for some of us, this is just like, mumble jumble. So what would they
Yeah.
typically receive? I see this one, the floor plan. And I've looked at them before, because of our builds, but just kind of go over what they would receive in terms of like a project like this.
Yeah, so let's go over this one real quick. I think a good this would be a good way to show it. So there's a sheet index where typically this is what your plans would kind of have, right? So the cover page would kind of entitle what the scope of work is of your ADU. So when you do plans, you need to have a cover page. The city's going to ask for it. And then next would be the site plan. So the site plan is where it shows the entire border line of your property. It also shows the existing primary dwelling. And this kind of dictates where your setback should be. So in the state of California, the setbacks of a detached ADU, you need to have at least 4 feet on all property lines. The distance between the house and a detached ADU, it differs on every city. Mostly it's 5 or 6. Some of it is very strict, like East Palo Alto needs 10. But yeah, usually it's about 5 to 10 when it comes to that. So the site plan kind of dictates your setback. The site plan also tells where your utilities are. So from there, your contractor can actually bid on how far the utility is. So your designer, your architect, whoever's doing your plan must indicate the utilities inside the site plan. So they'll actually tell you how far the actual existing meter is, the actual sewer cleanout is, the water main, and all that. It needs to be indicated in the site plan. Next would be the floor plan, just really quickly going through it. So the floor plan, it indicates obviously the design of the project. It'll tell you where the kitchen is, the square footage, the ceiling height, and all that kind of stuff, which is what you saw earlier. That was the floor plan. Next would be the exterior elevations, which you will really see how it looks like from the outside. This is more towards the planning department. They want to know if your window is high enough for egress. They want to know so egress, by the way, is for the fire department. Your window needs to be low enough for the fire person to go in. It also needs to be a big enough window for the fire department to kind of go in case there's fire and save anyone. And then next would be your typical structural details. I really want to get into the structural part. I think it's very, very important. I think I talked to Keisha about this initially when we had our first phone call. Junior ADUs, any designer is telling you that you need structural engineering for junior ADUs. Unless you're doing a vaulted ceiling, guys, you do not need a structural engineer for a junior ADU. Do not spend $5,000 extra for your plans on that. Just really to have a good enough designer who knows the city codes, who knows what the city will require. You do not need a structural engineer for a junior ADU or a conversion of an existing space because the structure is already there. You don't need to convert anything you don't need to build anything new. So there's that for structural details. And then foundation plan, I will not go into that detail because it's like going to school if we went through that. And then the electrical plan. So you do want to go through your electrical plan because you would know where your receptacles are going to be placed. Receptacles are the outlets. So, and where your lights are going to be placed, where your exhaust fan on the bathrooms are going to be placed. And there's that. And then these checklists are just the mandatory state requirements that we would provide. So usually that's typically how your plan set will look like when you submit to the city. Oh, one thing that I missed out is the Title 24 energy report. In California, in California, Title 24 is very important, by the way. It dictates your appliances, basically. So it dictates what type of water heater you should use. whether it be like a tankless one or whether you need a tanked one or a hybrid one, the Title 24 dictates that. You would also, the Title 24 also dictates, like if you were going to use a mini split are those split units, actually, not those HVAC vents that you need to put something new on your property. Usually though, I would recommend just using a split unit. It's just the cheapest option. Unless you're, designing something new, like a 1,200 square feet ADU. Sometimes it would make sense to just put HVAC on it. But yeah, for rental, to save costs and all that, use a mini split. It's for heating and cooling, so
Right.
you'll get that.
And it helps you meet those Title 24 calculations too. I have a hand raised.
Yes.
Hey,
will you
Patricia.
introduce
Jessica's
yourself?
here.
Good to see you again.
Hey, Jessica,
Hi.
how's it going?
I'm Jyotsna. Good. We're talking about structural details, and that prompted a question. Oh, shoot. Vaulted ceilings. So when is
Got it.
it a good idea to pursue it versus obviously it opens the space up and how do you balance it just looking nice versus it serving a need of letting more light in and so on?
So structurally speaking, vaulted ceilings require a new post for you to kind of carry your roof, right? Because you don't have a ceiling that's kind of holding your rafter loads. If you want to go technical on this is why you need structural engineering for vaulted ceilings. That beam that sort of connects, because vaulted ceiling, if you don't know what it is, it's basically opening up a ceiling. You won't have a drop 8-foot ceiling. It'll just open up and it'll follow the structure of how your roof is aligned. Why you need structural engineering for that? Because your rafter needs to connect to that beam, and that beam is structural. So at the end of the beam, there is a post that connects to the ground. It's called a king post, and then there's an extra footing in there, which needs calculation because that's not conventional framing. So that's why engineering needs to come in when it comes to vaulted ceilings. I always recommend vaulted ceilings though, because if your space permits it, because it makes the space so much bigger when you enter. So vaulted ceilings, instead of just having that capped 8-foot, when you go in, you can have a much space, a larger feel of the space, especially if you're like working with 400 square feet ADUs. I mean, you would need all the space you can get. You would need that openness, right? And the trend now is to kind of open the kitchen and kind of open the living room together where there are no walls separating it. So that vaulted ceiling really helps you look far. And it gives you that illusion of space where everything's pretty high. The only I would say challenge, I wouldn't say it's a con, but the only challenge you would do is probably finding a nice kitchen hood to kind of like, because you don't want it to like stop halfway when it comes to the walls. Just finding a good kitchen, so you want to find a good kitchen hood and find a good placement on it where it ends exterior wise. So if you have a chance to do vaulted ceilings, it's an incredible way to really maximize your space and make it look big and create that illusion. So yeah.
Thank you.
It
That's
feels a lot
helpful.
bigger. And I'll say that it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can go from 8 to 10 feet with capped-in windows. That's something that we use a lot, and that really helps just bring a lot of natural light as well. We've got a couple more questions, and then I'll hand it back to you guys. Let's see here. I love it. Keep all the questions coming. We like that everybody's engaging. Florentine has a question for Patricia. Actually, 2 questions. Question number 1, what are your thoughts on the prescriptive plans that are designed to standards that don't require structural plans for ADUs?
Okay, so I agree with those, but your lot has to be big enough. Okay, your lot has to be big enough, and it has to make sense. So let me put it this way: you're trying to save money, right? You're trying to save money for your plans, but your bill doesn't make sense. So, if you're trying to plot that inside your property, let's just say there's a pre-approved plans that you bought from the city or you bought from someone else for $500, and all you got to do is plot it in your site plan, right? what if the kitchen is facing the other way and then your actual kitchen is facing here? So you have to trench and make one big round where it'll cost you $20,000 more for trenching of the utilities. So you're essentially saving so much money from design, but you're not saving money when it comes to construction. So I would say I would rather spend money on a good designer than spending $20,000 more because your contractor is charging you all these change orders because of these extra costs when it comes to design. Also, one thing to really take note is your designer has to know how an ADU has built, because all of these prescriptive plans, I'm not against it. I'm just not encouraging it, especially if your lot is small
Right.
enough, and the orientation of it really plays a role on your build. So please consider on where the kitchen is being placed, where the bathroom is being placed. Does it make sense when it comes to, especially, like, what if that pre-approved plan is facing your neighbor? It affects privacy. It affects the entrance of the ADU. So all of these factors really take place, unless you really don't care on all of these aspects, and you can just plug it in. Yeah, it's way faster when it comes to permitting, for sure. But your build, it definitely dictates the amount of your build. That's what I can say on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And she has a second question. How do vaulted ceilings impact the foundation requirements, if at all?
Yes, it does. Like what I said, that beam in the vault is structural. So
Right.
instead of having like a ridge board, it's structural. The ends of it is connected to a post below, and it's connected to a footing below. So that's
And then having that non-conventional footing that you have to
and it's not
customize.
conventional. Correct.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. And then let's see here. Patricia, I would greatly appreciate any possible solutions for a garage conversion project. One of the existing walls is less than 1 foot away from the property line, which is against code.
I love that question.
Yeah.
Love that question. So I have a property in Manteca. It's in the Central Valley, for those of you who don't know. My garage is literally sitting on the property line. Like, it's on the property line itself. So it's not even 1 foot away, it's sitting on the property line. There's a rule in California: if you convert an existing space, it's called grandfathering in a setback. So if you're lucky enough to have a detached garage that is, even though it's sitting on the property line, you are allowed and you're exempted from all of the 4 feet setback requirements, as long as you don't extend out a part where it kind of encroaches into the property line. So if you have that and you're not extending out anything, you are allowed to convert that into garage. Right now, my garage is about 550 square feet. I have vaulted ceilings on that. So if you want, you can reach out to me and I'll share some pictures. It's sitting on the property line. The only really thing with a 1 foot setback is you can't put a window on that side. That is a fire requirement because it's a fire rated. So that wall needs, anything less than 4 feet actually needs to be fire rated. So that requirement kind of is falling in the fire department, where, so if your neighbor catches fire, at least that part of your property doesn't catch fire. So but yeah, you're not subjected to setbacks. So that's a very good question. You can convert that. One thing to also say, let's say your garage, just because your garage is there and you want to convert it into an ADU doesn't necessarily mean you can convert it right away, right? You have to look at the condition of your garage. If your garage is like if you kick it once and it just falls down, then yeah, you have to kind of redo everything. But you can take advantage of the setback of the setback by saying, I'm gonna convert it. So you can actually take down the entire thing and just leave like one stud wall there, and you can still call it a remodel or a conversion, and you would still not be subjected to the setback. So you can take advantage of that part. So that's a very good question. But yes, you can definitely convert that garage. And it's not against the code. You are within the code because you can grandfather that setback in. Hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, but Patricia, that is such a good point, because I've come to, in regards to the setback, I think it's such a good point because a lot of people think, oh, it's already there, so now I can just tear down and rebuild. And I've known a few people that have completely torn it down and not left one wall joining that property line, and they can't do it anymore. They can't build anymore. So that's a really
So you have to
important
at least leave one. Yeah, leave one stud in there. You can do it. Yeah.
And so we want to respect everyone's time, but we have a couple of questions still left inside of the chat. I don't know how, Steph, you want to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm responding.
I'm able to stay a few minutes. I'm able to stay
I'm
for a few
responding
minutes,
to
so
some
no
of the other
problem for me.
ones. Beatrice had a great question. It's a pretty lengthy question, but basically she's feeling overwhelmed about where she should get started in her process. So I think that'd be a great way for us to connect and go over the process in detail, and then, take it from there. Maybe hand you off to Patricia, hand you off to Keisha or Darcy or anybody who can just give you a little bit more guidance. But it sounds like you're just lacking a bit of clarity, and once you have more clarity about the entire process, then that'll help you make a more informed decision because you'll feel more confident. So I'll just answer that for now. And then, I know we're at the hour now, so I'm not sure if you guys want to finish the presentation or maybe wrap up with some quick discussions and kind of take it from there until we have the next one. You guys let me know.
Yeah, I just want to quickly touch bases with Wendy because I know her project was like ongoing, and then we can wrap up. Wendy mentioned something. Wendy, can you just share what you were mentioning about the HVAC? Because the Title 24 and that whole HERS process for us with the new build was definitely a steep learning curve. There's not a lot of information out there for just a regular homeowner to like navigate that process. And so we kind of we didn't get hung up on it. We actually passed all our inspections, but we had to on the back end do a lot of research to make sure we found the right HERS inspector to help us through the process. So what was going on, Wendy, with your project? Just, I want to make sure I understand.
It's just my inspector. He just checked, triple checked, quadruple checked. He was stuck on that Title 24. So it took me 3 times to pass final for those reasons. And it was a solar. He wanted to see the plans, which I just needed to print them out. And then the separate permit and then the HVAC. But I had no idea, mind you, I had some issues with my contractor. So I basically passed the inspection on my own.
Wow.
So I was
Congrats.
trying to figure it out and at the HERS test, never heard of it. I didn't even know what a Title 24 page was until I figured out when they told me I needed solar. So that Title 24, my architect had a couple mistakes because everything was supposed to be electrical and he put gas. And for that, I had to get a hold of the people who drew up the Title 24, which my architect and my structural engineer had no idea, like they just didn't even keep in contact. So it took 2 weeks and my HERS company was amazing. They figured it out, didn't charge me more, and were able to get me that paperwork to pass. But just basically be nice to everybody. You'll get as much information as possible when you act like you don't know. Just help me, please. And continue to call and figure it out. Yeah, but that Title 24 needs to be correct. And I didn't figure that out till after, but everything's passed.
Yeah, I think, so Patricia,
Awesome.
if you can make sure you drop, and thank you for clarifying, Wendy. Yes, Title 24, it's California's energy standard requirements for construction on anything but new builds and ADUs. They have a set, and meeting those can be, if you don't know, the process can be kind of intricate and stressful to navigate on your own. So that's why a professional is so important to be able to have on your team. Patricia, did you drop your contact information? And then we have a good question. Steph, is it okay to like shoot emails? You know how we all receive the email from Gia, your assistant? Can we all shoot their emails and then we can kind of work on the next presentation, including that in some way?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great, I know that the next call, Darcy's taking lead. So we're basically on rotation, right? I kicked off the first one. Keisha's here today and Patricia as a guest. Next call will be Darcy. So as quickly, we're going to do the best that we can and try to figure out a system because one, we're bringing on a guest every month. we're coming up with the material and we're making sure that everybody gets the reminders and the emails. So somehow, I'll have a conversation with the girls and see how we can make this a smoother process so that you guys can have questions submitted prior to the call, while at the same time we make it a very engaging call, right? Because I think we lose track. I know I have like, oh, squirrel, and I'll get distracted very quickly if I'm just like listening to a presentation for an hour. So I think I like the combination of a hybrid model where you guys know what to expect as far as the material, and then we can go over some pre-asked questions that we've had, while at the same time kind of free flow with it, and maybe dedicate the second half hour of the call to for a Q&A. So I'll definitely be more mindful of that. Thank you guys for the feedback, and I think that's it.
Well, we just want to wrap up and thank Patricia. And let's see, Steph has a couple of events that we want to share.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
Yes, but I didn't.
Thank you. Yes, and I'll be very quick. You guys can go to stephsellsedu.com or edumeetups.com. Both of those are my websites, and you guys will see all the information on there. So I have the course for all real estate professionals. I saw a realtor on here. Can't remember her name, but I'll look on the chat. Especially for realtors. I myself am a realtor, and so I created a course for ADUs for realtors on how they can become an ADU expert and really help with branding and marketing yourself as that ADU expert in your local market. So you're going to know about ADUs and understand the process from A through Z, but it's really going to help you how to talk to sellers, buyers, open houses, everything that a realtor does, but with the ADU hack attached to it. So that's what that course is about. And you guys can just send me a message and I'll get you guys on that. I also have a meetup coming up in 2 weeks at a 40-acre ranch in the outskirts of San Diego. I will be the host and moderator with my other friends who are all about ADUs. Andrew's an ADU developer. Rafa has a lot of ADU short-term rentals, midterm rentals. Adam is an owner of an ADU OZ fund. So it's just an overall like really dope event where we're going to share a lot of knowledge. I know some of the girls on this call who are going to be there. So it's also a great way for us to interact and get to see each other face to face, which I'm really, really excited for. That's happening in Escondido, outskirts of San Diego. On the 29th, I'm speaking at my friend Brian's escrow office, Noble Oak Escrow in Los Alamitos, which is near Long Beach, for those of you guys who don't know. And we're talking more about the legislation updates, which we kind of touched on today. So we're really going to dive deep into the ADU legislative updates, case studies, and different exit strategies when it comes to ADUs. And then on the 30th, I will be speaking for the Women's Council of Greater LA. This is my second year in collaboration with Shanaz, and we are going to talk about how to maximize ADUs from a profit standpoint and really geared towards investors. So that's what's happening this month. And then we're back on this call the week after, right? June, we're doing it June 4th, I think. We'll send you guys an email on the updates and all that, and hopefully the material so you guys know what to expect for next month.
Okay, sorry, I forgot I was staring at my screen. Okay, but thank you everyone for attending. Patricia, thank you so much for being here. I think Florentine is already out, but appreciate everyone's input. Darcy and Steph, and we'll be in touch.
I'm gonna send my contacts here again. If you have any ADU questions when it comes to design, and if you're unsure if you have a property that you would want to kind of consult with, again, I do provide a free 30-minute consultation, so I'll take it as that. But yeah, you have my number, my email, and my Instagram's there too. So if you have any questions that you weren't able to address in this call, you can call me directly.
Okay,
hey Patricia, can I schedule my podcast with you during that 30-minute consultation? I'd like to have you on my podcast. Sure. That would be great.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
I would definitely love
honestly,
that.
Yeah, you gave so much information today. It was very, very helpful and super valuable to everybody on this call. So thank you.
Okay, and thank you
Yeah,
to all
happy to
my
help.
realtor friends, Miss Matthews, and I saw a couple of other familiar
I saw
faces.
Stacy. I'm trying to copy Stacy's email so I can connect with her. I think she's the one I saw. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I love this. Thank you all.
Okay, see you guys next
Perfect.
time, next month. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.